Hi, this is Rahman Sheikh. Welcome to Fortnightly Railway Transportation Systems podcast. I am the host and railway systems specialist. This podcast is primarily focused on railway experts who have vast amount of experience and contributed greatly to this amazing industry. This is not a technical seminar but focuses on feel good stories, individual journeys, their success and failures, motivating younger generation to kickstart their career in railways and creating a sense of pride for the railway people who devoted their lives on the most environment friendly public transportation. Welcome to Railway Transportation Systems. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting Siby Yohannan, a seasoned systems engineer with a wealth of experience across multiple industries, including rail, water, power, mining, and oil and gas. Siby is currently serving as an Associate Director, Systems Integration at Sydney Metro, where he leads a team focused on integrating complex railway systems for major projects. With his background in engineering management, systems engineering, systems integration, and an extensive project experience, Sibi brings a unique perspective to our discussion today. Hi, Sibi. Welcome to the
Thanks for
pod.
having me, Rahman.
Let's start with my usual generic question. I tweaked it slightly a bit to make more technical. Can you tell me about your journey into the field of systems engineering and what drew you to specialize in railway systems?
Thanks, Rahman. So I started off my career within the control systems space, catering for large-scale complex projects. As a part of that, there were scopes provided by systems that fits into building a railway. So if we had to break that down and be a bit more specific, it would be around the traction, the ventilation, the building management systems, the comm systems, all those systems that contributes towards building a railway. Now, as I moved into technical management space within the organizations, that newer methodologies in delivering projects that is a bit different to the conventional way. So it's using the systems engineering approach compared to the traditional ways. It gave me an opportunity to see better outcomes at the end of those projects. And as we all know, seeing a rail project through from concept to operation takes a good amount of time. So all the above has enabled me to contribute in achieving successful projects as well as specializing on aspects along that journey. So both along in the systems engineering space and contributing towards the rail sector as well.
Thank you for this and thank you for sharing quite a different knowledge and experience you bring into railway, Sibi. As I work with you, I know you bring a lot of value to the project. Now you have worked across various industries such as rail, water, power, mining, and oil and gas. How have these diverse experiences influenced your approach to systems integration in rail sector?
So I'd start off by saying, the water industry, I'll probably just start off with the water industry as an example, that they're heavily process oriented. So you've got the chemistry that goes in towards the screening, the sedimentation, coagulation, filtration, etc., all this good stuff. I've had to make this very simple. The requirements would be, if an end product is supposed to be a drinking water, it would say it should be free of color, odor, etc. So as a systems engineer, what you do is you become the translator to take these process engineers' requirements or visions and then make them a reality. And what that basically means is converting all that technical criteria and scope into something that a system understands. And as you start delivering projects within the space, get to see various combinations and categories of these processes being put into application. Now, we took that approach and then moved on to another industry. So let's say a power plant that uses balance of plant. A balance of plant actually means supporting systems to help it perform and function more efficiently, like the cooling system, the water treatment, instrumentation, and all that skills. So all that skill that was picked up from the water industry, it becomes transferable as well and comes handy and helps you get to pick up a few new skills around the electrical side of things, like transformers and switchings and protections and etc. So the key out here is understanding the concepts and trying to deliver those different outcomes, which will make one well-rounded within the scopes like electrical, mechanical, controls, process, plants with various technologies. And within the rail sector, as you know, rail system plays quite an important role and experience and these experiences from various industries, which are transferable skills and mindset to grasp concepts quickly would definitely help, or at least it has helped me within the space.
Looks quite complex, Sibi. A quick follow-up question. Do I need to be a subject matter expert in rail to become a systems integrator in the rail space?
So I'll have to answer that by you have to become an expert at some stage on certain aspects, but then actually you progress and you become a jack of all rather than a master of one. So yes, you will have to work your way through by becoming masters of multiple systems. But once you become an integrator, you have the top-down view to actually make the right assessment as to where you have to dig deep down or where you have to stay above to have that top-down view. So it's...
One more follow-up
Sure.
question, Siby. How easy or how complex is railway systems integration with respect to other industries?
So the principles, as I mentioned, if you pick up principles from industry, they are transferable skills. It's how fast you pick those skills up with regards to how it contributes towards the end scope and beyond, especially from an operations perspective. And these days, most of the systems, they all have a brain, which is the control systems or programming or whatever it is. So if you pick up the flair and if you go along with it, you will grasp this along. But this is not something that you can pick in a day or working on a project. I think it just evolves as you learn from projects to project, actually. So, yeah.
Yeah, great answer, Siby. So let's stick to rail. What are the key challenges you face in managing and integrating complex systems across rail when compared to other industries?
Some mentioned in my previous question, actually, within the rail industry, you start bringing multiple of these systems together. So, for example, the rolling stock, the CBTC, or the signaling, traction, building management, and so forth. And along with all these intricacies, you also have all these software and the control systems that manages each of these packages as well. So a good understanding of the behaviors of these various packages and its intended outcome is absolutely essential and can be a challenge because, the way things work within packages could differ as well. So if you look at the building management system compared to a traction system, they're totally different. And your skill set and your experience needs to be a bit more in-depth when you get into those complex systems, especially around the CBDC and the traction and things like that. Now, one of the challenges would be, as I mentioned, grasping the understanding of all these systems to know which needs to be focused more and which needs to have the adequate focus as well. And if we had to split now these systems to build a railway, I'll like to put them across as horizontal and vertical components. Now, building a railway, we do have geographical challenges as well. So you have to go and stitch together these horizontal and the vertical components at various locations. So it's really building this piece by piece and then trying to stitch them back together. And when I say building it piece by piece, it really means bringing multiple systems together, its interfaces, the functionalities, and all sorts of things to finally bring them together into a centralized location for us to start using it as an integrated or an end-to-end railway. So the challenges would be doing things multiple times, and each time you do it, your challenges could be different as you progress.
Wow, really great insights, Siby. I know systems integration is such a key item, especially in today's modern railway. One such example is the Cross River Rail, where in the lesson learned, we knew biggest flaw was they forgot systems integration, and that took a lot of time. So now, from your experience, what do you think? When should system integration really come into picture? At which phase of the project?
I think it should be there from the start of the project, actually. I think so. When we decide to build a railway, we see the end as one railway. But when we decide to procure it, we try to break them out. So I think it's having that vision of building thing as a whole and the end usage of it as a whole. So I would say probably all throughout the life cycle, this needs to be an approach that needs to be taken.
I think so. I believe in it. So could you elaborate on the role of systems integration manager and the critical responsibilities it entails, especially in the context of major infrastructure projects?
Well, it's a crucial role to ensure success on the project. One of the main aspects of the role is not just about systems. It's just also about ensuring that people, systems, and the processes work in cohesion to achieve those end goals. So the vision should always incorporate this as the building block. Now, if I had to break that down into three, as I just mentioned, people, processes, and systems, I'd start with people. So putting people at the center of things enables success. And what that includes is, or what it looks like on a day-to-day basis would be stakeholder engagement, advice and involvement of the operator, the clients, the contractors, the suppliers, So it's bringing all these stakeholders along on that journey and getting that support to buy into that vision, both within contracts and probably sometimes you'll have to go for elements outside of the contracts as well. So it's getting everyone on the same page, buying into the vision and bringing them along the journey. Now, with regards to, I'll concentrate next on systems, purely from a rail systems perspective. The systems, it entails by defining a strategy and a plan, and you start developing your systems architecture. So as a part of, your systems architecture, you start identifying all the systems, its interfaces. You start doing systems engineering, safety, systems assurance on those identified systems and its interfaces. You start incorporating the build, followed by the VNV or the TNC, and then you start putting all these together into an overall program. Because it's not just doing the work, we also need to have a program and a plan in place as well. And afterwards, performing testing and commissioning, system integration testing, considering operational readiness, and it's lots more actually. So in a simple scenario, or if I had to make it a bit more simpler, a top-down approach to build a vision and a bottom-up approach from a day-to-day perspective to complete that vision. Now, the third one would be processes and governance, actually. It really depends on which side of the fence you sit. So if you're a client organization, probably taking stock and barrel to make an assessment as to if the organization really has all those relevant skill sets and assets in terms of resources to take on this role. So that probably would include taking risks and opportunities that comes along with it, or deciding to outsource that scope to an organization. But if it gets decided to outsource to an organization, it should be made sure that the organization is equally empowered to make decisions in the best interest of the project. So that actually means having contingencies in place to make some hard decisions along the way. Now, if it's on the supplier side, taking on the scope involves a lot more. Definitely having quite a bit of contingency in terms of risk for the unseens and the unknowns as a part of executing that scope would definitely help. But the key here is considering an approach, be it on any side of the fence, is best for project. Just use systems integration as a tick and flick approach, be it on any side as well. I
do 100%. I do agree with you, Siby. But I got a follow-up question. We talked about architecture, systems, and processes, and making sure we all work in cohesion to achieve the end goal. But you also included people, and that is the tough part. Can you please explain how can you make sure people are working in cohesion to achieve your goal as a systems integration manager?
It's a hard one. So when we all work on complex projects, we all know that people with different skill sets, different personalities, it's working along and getting that buy-in. At some stage, we'll have to put egos aside. It's always not it's my way or the highway. So it's a bit of a people skill. Gaining trust is another one. Sometimes, always trying to put ourselves in another person's perspective and see what is the concern and how we can bring that person along on the journey. And that probably also involves getting their trust and knowing when to make a stand and when to be a bit flexible. So it's a bit like give and take. When you need to give and support, and when you need to stand your ground and get a bit as well of a give and take for me personally.
Yeah, I know. I've been working with you for quite long, and I did notice that you actually do some presentations during lunch sessions, brown bag sessions, and I think that really helps because all the project people actually understand what you're trying to achieve, and that clears a lot of questions for the people. I think you're doing a great job. Thanks for bringing this value from various industries, Siby, and especially with your expertise in requirements management and systems assurance. How do you ensure alignment between stakeholder expectations and project deliverables in large-scale rail projects?
So I'd like to break that down into two sections. One's requirements management and the other one's systems assurance. So during the early stages of a project, from a requirements management perspective, that is, when we start with those business requirements, that there'll always be a mix of needs and wants. As we progress, identifying them plays a big role in formulating solutions. And again, further as the project progresses, finding opportunities within that wants space. So it's within the systems engineering world, we say trade-off analysis. It leads to better outcomes. Also, a progressive approach, both at the design and the product stage, helps to score away non-compliances, deviations, and justifications for those non-compliances. And so it's a balance of taking systems engineering, delivery, using those trade-off analysis to get the best outcome. Helps from a requirements management perspective. And with regards to systems assurance, this is an interesting one. I've been on projects where all the requirements were ticked off, but yet the solution has failed to meet its intent with deficiencies. I've also been on projects where everything functions, but you don't have the right evidences and documentations as a part of the assurances in place to demonstrate them. So in complex projects, I strongly believe it's finding the balance between meeting the intended functionalities and demonstrating them and capturing them as a part of the product verification within the systems engineering framework that provides meaningful outcomes for all stakeholders.
Well, great insights. Now, as we spoke about requirements and systems assurance, let's speak about the role. What role does interface and integration management play in ensuring seamless operation of rail systems, particularly in highly automated environments like metro systems?
The two play very key and distinctive roles. Now, at a very high level, the role or the objective of integration is to look at things from a top-down approach lens and picture the end state and work towards that vision or aim of building it. So integration starts off with a vision of the end product, and then you progress by working towards building the vision to complete the end product. And what that means is it's also demonstrating that it fits for purpose from an end-to-end perspective. While interface management, it fills and fits all these puzzles to build that vision. So it is a bottom-up approach. It's a widely perceived notion that interface management is integration, especially on complex projects. And again, also there are multiple levels of interfaces too. It can be a mix of enabling works and contributing towards the functional objectives and things like that. They're totally different. And as I mentioned, one is actually taking the top-down view to see how the whole thing comes together, and then you work towards it. And the interface is actually fitting in to complete that vision as we progress.
So as an integration manager, it's very critical that you play a key role even in
Absolutely,
interface.
because when you build your systems architecture, you have a vision of all the systems that needs to come together. But the intricacies of all those systems speaking to multiple other systems gets detailed around the nitty-gritties within the interfaces. So yes, an integration person should also be involved at the interface level. But you also need to maintain the balance of where those nitty-gritties get sorted out to obtain the functionalities from an interface perspective. So they both have to go hand in hand, but the objectives towards the tail end would be different, because the objective of the integration would be beyond just those functional elements at the bottom level. It would be to demonstrate that it is fit for purpose and how has come together from an end-to-end perspective and can be used in the long term.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this, Siby. It's many people I know out there get confused between interface management and integration management, and the roles as well. They get confused what interface manager does and what integration manager does. You have explained it quite clearly in very simple terms. You have been involved in commissioning and maintenance support for power system. Could you share some insights into the challenges and strategies involved in this critical phase of project delivery? What lessons can you bring into rail?
To me, commissioning and bringing a power plant into operations was one of the most exciting phases in my career, and I absolutely loved it. If you didn't enjoy it, it could also become daunting as well. As with complex systems, towards the tail end, you need to tune or fine-tune all the systems for streamlined efficiency and performance optimization. So if it was a power plant, be it generation, exporting to the grid, synchronization, all that good stuff. Now, these required skills that could be honed only with hands-on commissioning experience on multiple projects. These specialized skill sets from these experts are an absolute essential towards the tail end for the project success. Now, these knowledge gained and retained helps in providing better solutions for the next one. This knowledge transfer definitely can be a bit more streamlined within the rail sector. I'm not saying that it's not there. It is, but it is quite a bit more specialized, and the expertise is immense, experienced, or gained from a global level. But sometimes, that expertise is not readily available at the local level when we require it. So we all have been on projects where we'll probably need to have that one expert who is probably just overseas, who's got multiple years of experience working on global projects as well. So to me, some of those key skill sets and the knowledge transfer at local level as and when required is something that I'd like to definitely see improved as we progress on projects moving forward.
Wow, great insights, Sivi. As we spoke about power systems, let's also cover control systems. What are some of the notable advancements in SCADA, which is supervisory control and data acquisition technologies, that you have witnessed over your career, and how have they impacted rail system operations?
Okay, this might be a bit controversial, but SCADA systems used in industries outside of the rail have been always more advanced in terms of functionalities and features. And you do have multiple industry players, both small and big, competing and contributing for a while. The same can't be said for the rail industry. But on that note, with the advancement of technology, especially within the instrumentation and sensor space, a lot of data can be processed and analyzed with much more efficiently to produce better outcomes. So compared to the early days, data analytics leading to predictive and preventative maintenance is an example that helps in asset management and the operations phase. And another one would be data gathering around patronage and using it to improve operational efficiencies as well. So yeah, these are some of the advancements that I've seen recently within the rail sector compared to some of these other sectors.
Yeah, I agree. So rail need not be advanced in all the areas. With people like you and many more other guests who came onto my pod, they bring a lot of knowledge and lessons learned from other industries, and that's what help us to grow as a railway family. Could you also share a memorable project or challenge you have faced in your career and how you approached its resolution, particularly from a systems integration perspective?
It's quite a fair few from different industries. So I'd like to pick one. This is definitely not from the rail industry. I'm not going to give away the industry and the project and things like that. The project was quite delayed with no clear end in sight. We were definitely in the TNC phase. Testing and commissioning stage was not in the best phase either. The reporting statistics was promising. So the functionality of those systems didn't line up with those reportings that came into play. So it wasn't really ready even to actually get into the next stage to commence systems integration and beyond systems integration, the performance testings and things like that. So why this stands out is because an inclusive environment where the reps of the senior management and the people on the call phase was on the ground supporting each other to achieve the outcomes under immense pressure. So we face quite some challenges to progress from the TNC phase into the systems integration testing phase as well. What we did figure out was even when we progressed towards the 75% mark, we had some challenges achieving certain outcomes beyond the systems integration phase to get into this next and overall objectives. Now, I had to draw on the expertise, a couple of commissioning experts on that project. So literally what I had to do was on the fly relearn a lot of things, what I knew. So you just had to go out of the comfort zone because it's towards the tail end. You come with a fixed set saying, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'll get this done and this would be the outcome. So sometimes it was one of these projects I just had to relearn a lot of those things. And I also had to be a bit more receptive for the knowledge gained or brought in by people from different teams and translate that into a systems language to achieve success. So the key takeaway for me was being receptive to the wealth of experience from people around me from different teams, and also to tap into that knowledge and acknowledge the fact that none of us is smarter than all of us.
Wow, great challenge and great lesson learned. Even though you didn't mention which industry this experience you have got it, but I strongly believe this is applicable across all the industries. However, as someone like you, Sibi, deeply involved in stakeholder management, what strategies do you employ to foster collaboration and alignment among diverse stakeholders in large-scale infrastructure projects?
So one of them that I normally use is understanding the audience and catering the message from their perspective. And some of those examples would be if it's engineering, then interactions vary in terms of technical discussions. If it's from the operations side, I try to normally correlate and convey the outcome from their perspective. If it's with senior exec, I like to keep it short and sweet, get precisely to the problem, what a proposed solution might look like. In that way, they're equipped with data to make informed decisions that is a collective one or a captain's call. And on a day-to-day basis, you have the various types. They're not so aware type, but receptive to feedback. And then you have the know-it-all type and so forth as well. So the key out here is fostering collaboration by identifying your key stakeholders early on from the project, because it helps a lot in the long run to achieve success and best for project outcomes.
Great strategy, Siby. I think this really helps for the people in their day-to-day work who are keenly involved, not just in system integration, but also in various other sectors. Now let's move to the next question. Siby, what advice would you give to engineers aspiring to specialize in systems integration and management within a rail industry based on your career journey?
So when I started my career, I did have an ambition to gain experience within various critical infrastructure industries. So that was catering within the civilian space. So rail, water, power, tunnels, and things like that. So pursuing opportunities in those organizations and identifying the opportunities in the organizations that had this breadth of work really helped me. So yes, you can, if you stick onto the smaller scopes, you can always do smaller scopes. So for me, one of those things that I did in my career was to set an ambition to go and gain experience with various industries and actually complete the scope. So one of those first things was to identify organizations that actually would take this sort of work all the way, like EPCs or turnkey contractors that would take a whole scope right from concept or the bid stage into operations phase. And identifying those organizations and trying to pursue my opportunities within those organizations has really actively helped me in my career as well. So my advice would be to identify those opportunities and follow one's passion and enjoy what one does. And along the journey, I'm sure things will start falling in place. It's just not for systems integration, but I think it's across the industry.
Yeah, Sibi, one more follow-up question. Do you have any advice to the young engineers and also the senior leaders about their involvement in engineering bodies like Engineers Australia? Because I see you have got lots of accreditations. So what role do you think like Engineers Australia or any other engineering body plays in one's career?
So, if you look back, we take the lifespan of a professional, you'll see that we all come out of university as graduates. And now we probably know that, what we learned out in theory, we start applying them in bits and pieces towards in the industry. And what we learned from those days is now what actually how the industry performs. And then we slowly pick up skills as we progress from projects or as we move on from organizations to organizations as well. And the same applies to the career as well. So if we don't upskill ourselves, we just become a bit stagnant with the skills that we have. So I think probably it's quite evident these days. You can have 20 years of experience with just one skill set, or you could have 20 years of experience with multiple things, and it definitely makes a difference. So certification to me is absolutely essential if you just want to keep growing your career, because actually you bring new perspectives into the project, and it also opens up opportunities as well. Now, with regards to leaders actually being involved as well, I think it's also giving that opportunity for individuals to grow who are passionate. So sometimes what that basically means is giving an opportunity to fail on the job and understanding how quickly things can be turned around as well. So definitely there are aspects that needs to be considered by the candidate to bring their skills up, and leaders actually who also have to provide those opportunities to those candidates as well.
Wow, beautiful answer, Sibi. I really 100% concur with your advice, and I strongly recommend the leaders to listen to you and what you're trying to tell them. Looking ahead, what are some of the emerging trends or technologies in rail systems that you believe will shape the future of urban transportation?
Interoperability. I definitely would like to see interoperability becoming a bit more mainstream, be it among the various global players in the rail industry, be it heavy rail, metro, freight, etc. And we all know definitely that can be improved. And another one would be improvements leveraging technology within the predictive maintenance space, because things are getting smarter, your sensors are getting smarter, there's lots of data that's coming and that can be utilized to improve efficiency across the board. So be it all the way from patronage to maintenance, prolonging the asset life. The resources are getting scarce, your budget's constrained. So probably we could use some of these things to, get the best out of what we have. It's a bit bit like trying to get the max out of what little we have.
Great answer, Siby. As this episode is in and around, I tried to focus on systems integration. So before we wrap this session, would you like to give some advice or your one lesson learned you want to share with the projects about the importance of systems integration?
It's become more mainstream these days. Systems integration cannot be achieved by smaller scopes. I think it's a lesson the message has been passed across from various projects across in the industry. Cross-rail is one where I think that stands out. It's been there from day one. It's not something new. Try to see things as a whole. As I mentioned earlier, if we use that approach to see things as a whole or at an end state, and if we start approaching that from day one, it becomes quite easy. And if that thought process is actually baked into how we break these things down into smaller scopes, and if it's outsourced or procured in that matter, but if the thought process of when they all come together is there in those packages, I think it's not that hard these days. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's a given these days. Most of these complex projects, probably the value of the systems are probably much lesser compared to the bigger scheme of things. But at the end of the day, all these have to work harmoniously beyond just the delivery phase as well, because beyond delivery phase we move on into the operations and beyond as well. And it's just the systems that speaks to keep it performing on a day in, day out perspective, if that makes sense.
Wow, great answers and great insights, Siby. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge on this pod, and thank you for bringing so much of information, especially very rarely spoken field systems integration.
Thank you so much, Raman. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
I believe everyone listening to this podcast has got something to take away from today's discussion. If you like this podcast, please listen, follow, and share this podcast within your network. If you believe we should be sharing your story or someone within your network, there is a railway leader who should be here sharing his or her contribution to this industry, contact me on railwaytransportationsystems@gmail.com. Thank you for your time today. See you next fortnight. Until then, stay safe and take care of yourself.